Welcome back to another episode of the Tile Money Podcast. My name is Luke Miller, your host, and today we've got another fantastic interview for you today. We have one of the Tile University members, and this is Dan Kasman, the owner of Casco Tile out of New Jersey, and we had a fantastic discussion. My business partner, Grant, joined me to be my co-host, and together, the three of us had a great business discussion. We got into some great details. Who's Dan? Dan is a fairly new business owner, a couple years new business owner. He is a COVID company, as he says. During COVID, he decided, he got laid off or got, however the union words that. They were out of work during COVID, and he decided, you know what? I've been listening to a lot of Tile Money business podcasts, and I feel confident and competent and ready to start my own business. And that's exactly what he did. So we've got a great interview with a fresh business owner, a couple years fresh, who really opens up and shares the lessons he learned both as being a new business owner, as well as we weaved in some lessons to learn from being a union finisher and getting his start in the union. And so I know you're really going to enjoy this. We covered a lot of ground, and it's a fantastic interview with a fantastic person. I am going to let my partner Grant introduce our sponsor, which is happytileguy.com right now, and we'll get right into the interview. If you are in need of a tile contractor website, check out happytileguy.com. But here's Grant to tell you more about it.
Yeah, the website's specially made for tile contractors. We only focus on that are search engine optimized, which means it'll help you get found online organically on Google, which obviously can mean a lot for you and your business. Not only that, but it's basically like a white glove concierge service. We need as little information from you as possible. In fact, we need one intake form and a bit of photos and about information. We take care of the rest. Pre-written content, blogs, ebooks, everything ready to go on your site to help you generate leads. Like I said, optimized. We set it up with Google Analytics for all the tracking and take care of everything for you. So all that's done for you on the website. We have a special running actually right now in July, $200 off that setup fee, which makes it only $297 to get started today. And like we talked about on a previous podcast, we're trying to help people get ahead of this possible downturn in the economy, make sure you're staying in front of people, as many people as possible. Also, the website's a huge credibility factor for those that have done it yourself. Those are more like a brochure website. Our websites are professionally designed, developed, ready to go. Out of the box, in fact, we had a guy that won a $100,000 job recently, and he referenced his website as a big factor in that decision process because the client was very impressed with his professionalism, and his website definitely spoke to that. So come check us out, happytileguy.com. You can actually schedule a free consultation with me. We'll chat, see if it's a good fit. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us directly through the website.
Right on. Thank you, Grant.
Yeah, no problem.
I mean, I'm happy you're here again. I forgot about our special we're running in July.
Yeah.
I need to remember stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And Dan actually has a happytileguy.com website as well, cascotile.com.
He does.
KASCO tile.com if you want to check that out. Let's bring Dan in.
Let's do it.
What's up, Dan?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good, brother. Yourself?
I'm great, man. Great.
Well, listen, give us your introduction, where you're at, and then, give us the 10,000 foot overview of your business.
Absolutely. So, like you stated, I am in New Jersey. I was born and raised here. I love it here. You can be in the mountains one day and on the beach in the same day. A lot of people think New Jersey's a concrete jungle, but no, I'm from the woods of New Jersey. I've been doing construction since I was like 14 or 15, whether it was pulling wire for a friend's dad who was an electrician or, just stuff around the yard. I got into tile when I was about 22, maybe. And then I got into the union maybe when I was like 23 or 24. And I was doing that, in New York City. And quite frankly, I knew I was working to make other people rich, and I got tired. I was getting tired of the commute, sitting in my car for an hour and a half each way every day. My father and my uncle were both like entrepreneurs, had their own successful businesses and stuff. And I don't know if that has any part of it, but I've just always wanted to like work for myself and not be beholden to somebody else's schedule, time frame, and stuff like that. Especially when I like the more artsy side of tile. Right, like the more detail-oriented stuff, like the scribe work and laying everything out while it's still looking like, well, it's down to studs still, like I'm trying to figure out where the tile's going to land with the light switch, and do, especially in the union, but in my experience, right, to get in with those companies is very difficult because it could be a little cliquey. So, COVID hit, I was working at the American Dream Mall, and I'd been listening to TileMoney. I just found it maybe 2 months prior to COVID. I was just nonstop while I was working. I was sitting there with headphones and grouting and just listening to TileMoney over and over, right? Yeah. And I was just like, I can do this. Like there's so many guys I see who don't do things the right way, and but that's even the right way. Just things don't even look good. Everywhere I would go, I'd be looking at tile and it just looks horrendous. I'm like, these guys have companies and they're making who knows how much money, and they're installing stuff like this. And then like, I know what I can do, so COVID hit, the mall closed down, and I was like, you know what, now's my chance, and I'm a COVID company. And and it's been going great so far. The first year, everyone was talking about the big boom. I'm glad that I got to start in that time, because that first year, it was a little tough even still, because getting your name out and everything like that takes time. Especially like I hadn't been doing tile long enough that I had a steady stream of like side work or anything. But we're doing it, and it's been going great, and I couldn't be happier. Yeah,
that's really cool. So how long were you in the union? 2-3 years, did you mention? Or?
Not that long. And I was in a, what do they call it? They call it finisher is what I was. So I wasn't even installing tile in the union. I was just grouting and making cuts.
Sure.
I was in the union for 3 years. I mean, I still have my card. I always have that as a backup. I would never get rid of it. It's just such a pain to get, but yeah. But it was just one of those things where it sounds like you're making a lot of money. And I felt like I was working for my retirement. You know what I mean? It was hard to like, especially like my lifestyle. Like I'm always doing things, or at least trying to, and to be able to, in my opinion, like afford to like, even just the basics, like have a house, have a family, and go on vacation once a year. Nothing crazy, nothing like, I don't need to be the wealthiest guy in the world. But just to have those things and not be worried about money all the time, or be very, very difficult in the union unless you're working overtime like crazy. But when you retire, you get a nice big paycheck. That's what's nice.
Sure.
And stuff. But
yeah, and everybody, everybody's different. I mean, like you say, there is that security there and that career, right? I mean, a lot of people are career orientated to where that really does attract them. But like you say, you came from, you had your uncle and your father and some other influences on your life that really probably put that seed of entrepreneurship, business ownership in your mind. I think it's really cool though that you did get to start, have a couple years in the union. What have you taken away from that experience that you're applying in your day-to-day work, if anything?
Ooh, that's a good question. So let's see. First off, you are absolutely right. Like I'm not trying to talk down on the unions.
Right.
They are wonderful. I am pro union.
Sure.
I fully think people should join unions and unionize. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's just, for me, it's not what I wanted. Other people would be wonderful. Like the benefits, all that stuff's great.
Right.
But for me, it wasn't working. I would like to reiterate that, because I don't want to sound like I'm talking at all, because that's not the case. But I learned a lot, man. I got to meet a lot of people. And when I really got into the union, I didn't have all that much experience with tile, just like I said, I was doing it for a couple years prior to that, but I was also like, I was kind of like the grunt on the job. Like I would help do tile when I didn't have other things to do. Right. Even though like I love doing the tile aspect of it, that was my favorite part. But I learned that, to work clean, right? Like working clean is fast, basically. Working clean is fast, even though it takes more time to work clean. It feels like, because you're working slower, but slow is fast, right? Or clean is, wait, there's a way to word that. Clean is slow, but clean is fast. Like working clean takes a lot more time. Never mind, I'll stop.
I know exactly.
The saying, there's a saying. I try to remember what it is. I just read it in a book the other day.
Yeah, but, I don't know the saying off the top of my head, but I know the practice, right? It's like prep work with tile. Like, if you spend 60% of your time doing prep work, it could feel like, oh, this is taking forever. but then that last 40-30% of actually installing the tile goes so much quicker. And if you get in a hurry, and it's the same way with the way we keep our job sites, and it translates to our brain, really, no matter what we're working. If we keep our brain clean and we have a schedule in our brain, okay, I know I'm going to do this, 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 and this is how I'm going to get 10 hours of work done in 8 hours rather than, 4 hours in 8 hours. I mean, you want to try to maximize your time. That's how we see guys expediting the process, because they've taken the time up front to prepare for a successful day. I mean, when I was contracting, it got to the point where, I couldn't fall asleep without running through every single thing at least twice for tomorrow, because I wanted to wake up and get that. I mean, you've got, and you're going to have things come up, that will distract you. So the better organized you are mentally, job site ways. And, I never worked with the union. I've worked with companies kind of similar to unions, and they had it structured so that, look, we slow down and take the safety meetings, but guess what? It's going to reduce our injuries 20% this year, 30% this year. Yeah, we'll take the 30 minutes times 100 guys. We'll take that investment because it's going to save us injuries. It's going to save you. It's going to save. So that's kind of the gist of what you're saying there. Which
exactly.
I kind of figured you'd say something like that, because those are the types of things you learn in an apprenticeship, whether it's union or private, apprenticeship, and that's really the value there.
Yeah. I learned, like, basically the best guys I always worked with, and like they were clean. And my main mechanic, that's what they call the tile setters in our area, in that union, they called mechanics. My mechanic that I worked with for a long time, he always taught me, like, he was like, Danny, I don't care how long it takes you, work clean. Speed comes with time. If you end up, if you start working and you're dirty all the time, but you're fast, it's going to be a lot harder to slow down and become clean than it is to go the other way around with it. So now I always try to be clean. It was funny. I was telling you in the mastermind about the builder I met the other day. And it's funny. I walked in, and the two guys, they looked at me. They're like, "Are you the one that installs the tile?" After we had talked for a few minutes, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm, it's just my brother and I are the only two in my company. And they're like, "Oh man, you're so clean." Especially you were installing tile all day. I was like, I looked at them. I was like, man, I've had this pair of pants for a year, and there's like 3 stains on them. I just,
wow.
I get a little OCD about it. I'll admit it, but it come grout time. Right. I'm still thankful for that, or at the end of the day, when I go and, I have to wipe a little bit of thin set off here or there or whatever it is, or, when I go to Silico and everything, I'm so grateful that I'm clean, because I've been the guy sitting there spending a day and a half cleaning, white thin set when I'm about to grout black or brown. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. And so I'd rather just take the time and wipe it with a sponge while it's still wet, or whatever it is. Just working clean is efficient. Yeah. And like you said, it does translate to your mind. I was reading a book once. I think it was Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules to Life or something along those lines. It's a very good book. I highly recommend it. And he was saying that, before you try to go about like fixing everybody else's lives, like, clean your home, make your bed in the morning, because like people whose rooms are messy, it translates to like their mind being messy, right? So the first thing you should do is clean your house, and then go about taking on other jobs and aspects of life.
Goes back to the military. They make their bed every day, right when they get up. They're very structured, right?
And I started doing it a few years ago. My girlfriend and I, like, whoever wakes up last, right? We make the bed first thing. Right. First thing out of bed, and it feels good when you come into your room the other day and everything just looks nice and neat and clean. Yeah,
you accomplish something, you check it off the list, kind of start your day right. Yeah, I'm curious about is it really structured in the union as far as all that stuff goes? I'm gonna give the question is, did you learn stuff from there that translates into being a business owner now for yourself, as far as structure and that kind of stuff goes?
Well, I mean, I also do full remodels, so seeing the order of operations when it comes to the giant jobs, and just how much, oh man, it's hard to put into words, how much like mistakes of one trade translate into much more work for another trade. It kind of comes back to the whole being efficient and thinking about like Luke said, thinking about the entire process through before doing something, because when I walk into a job, let's say I'm thinking about where the molding is going to fall before I'm setting the tile. So that way, when I go to cut the molding, my tile's not in the, I don't have to go chipping out some whatever thin set or whatever it is, that's a horrible example because you never really run into those two things, but you know what I'm trying to say, or figuring out where your niche is going to lie before you cut it in. So that way you don't get little small slivers and your layout looks horrible. It's kind of the same thing. So learning about the order of operations of things and how, let's give someone like the room, the work area to do what they need to do. Don't try to force too many people into one room. That was something we dealt with a lot. Was certain companies would try to force like 4 trades into a small room. It just slows things down.
Right.
Everyone's getting each other way. Everything's messy. You don't get as good of a job. So it translates to, going back and being efficient and being clean, and just giving people their time to do their work is how you get the best results.
Nice.
And so like with my brother's my apprentice, that's how I like to word it. I don't call him a helper because I think that belittles the position. And so he's my apprentice. I'm teaching him. He will eventually be a CTI. We'll get there, but he hasn't been doing. He's only been doing tile with me now consistently since I started the business, and he's getting much better. But I do the same thing. I tell him, I'm like, look, take your time. Take all day to grout those 2 walls. Which today he was grouting some beveled subway tile, and it was taking him some time. And as much as I want to go in there and be like, you should be done with this 2 hours ago and you're halfway done. I'm not going to do that because I know I was in that position, and, I know I'm fast at grouting now because that's what I did in the union.
Right.
If you're not fast, you're off the job, so you grout relatively fast. And, just trying to translate over to him. So one day when I have him running the jobs, I want him to do the same thing for other people when he's teaching other people. So that's why I'm like trying to take my time and just like teach him the way I want him to teach other people. I don't want him to necessarily be all in their face and, causing that name, It
sounds like, a lot of discipline built in. We talk about, making your bed every day and then, even just cleaning out the thin set and the grout joints. You're so right. As an apprentice, as a finisher or an apprentice or a grouter, you learn you learn what not to do, because when an installer is in the situation where they never have to grout again, over time, some of them forget, and they just don't have to, and I imagine in the union, there's a lot of that, messy installers who never have to grout. It sounds like that's the way it's structured, but it also has trained you what not to do and how to take care of, think about the person coming behind you, and in your case that might be you or your brother, so it's really close to home. But it's also that self-discipline to think a decade in the future. You're right now investing in your brother, and you just said it, and it's so rare. And you being in business 2 years, man, you're going to go far. It's so rare to hear somebody say like, I'm thinking about training my apprentice, in this case your brother, because I want him to be able to train somebody in 5 years, 10 years, whatever that is. And that way I can go and maximize my time elsewhere, or we can both train somebody, and then they can, and that's how you really scale that operation. This is such a great opportunity. And I'm really excited that you're a fresh 2-year-old business, because really this podcast, and I was talking about it with my wife earlier, I was like, I was thinking the other day, Mario encouraged me to listen to some of my first episodes that were, nearly 4 years old now. And I was trying to think of who I created this podcast for. And that sounds funny, but life goes on and we get distracted and you kind of forget what your mission was. And when I created this podcast, I was like, let's just say I was 35. Well, I was thinking of myself a decade prior, because at 25 in 2008, I got my license, I got married, and I had all this installation knowledge. I didn't know a lot, but I had already been in it close to a decade at that time, 8 years. And so I could build showers. I knew proper methods, but I didn't know squat about business. So that was who I had in mind when I created this. So I'm really curious to dig into your 2-year journey now. you know, what, I don't know. I'm just going to kick it off with just like one random question here. Like, what has been the most difficult thing for you in the last 2 years for starting your business?
Scheduling.
Okay.
Figuring out how long it takes me to actually do things. I want to think I can prep a bathroom in a day. Not the way I do it. You know what I mean? First off, not the right way to do it, because I try to do everything by the book. That's how I sell myself. And you know, things come up in construction, the wall's way more out, you forget the planer at home. And, you know, now I use a different system, but I should start adding more time to my estimates, which I'm getting a little bit better at. That, and also when I started throwing out like real numbers, you know, when I first started, so New Jersey is one of the more expensive places to live, right? In one of the more expensive states. And the county I live in and the county right next to it are always in the top 2, like, richest, wealthiest counties in the country. You know, I'm very fortunate to be living in the area I'm living for what I'm trying to build, right? But it's also expensive to live around here. So I remember, now some people, this might be a big leap to them, but I was starting out trying to sell myself for $500 a day. No, it did not work for my brother and I. I mean, don't get me wrong. I started work. I got a whole bunch of jobs. I got some experience under my belt working with a contractor in the area, and he gave me a few jobs. And but I quickly learned that, like, it's just, that was not enough to actually build what I'm trying to build. You know, maybe if I had more consistent work, but I'm also, like I said, trying to sell myself as the detail-oriented, knowledgeable, certified tile installer in the area. I'm the only one within, I mean, maybe it's a 15-mile radius. There's like 2 guys about 20 miles away, but I don't, yeah. So once I started like pumping my numbers up and putting out that number was a big, like, it was a weird feeling, like, you know, getting to, and then if it got declined a couple of times, to have the confidence to keep putting out those types of numbers. And I'm seeing everybody, you know, TileMoney Facebook groups and Tile Geeks, all of them, you know, Global Tile Policy, all of them, where people do talk about the business end of it. And I see some of the numbers that helped me inspire more confidence in myself with putting out those numbers. I know other people are getting more than what I'm trying to sell myself as. Nice. So that was another one of those things. So between like the scheduling and then also like raising my prices, those were the 2 things that kind of were hard. That and bookkeeping. I finally got a bookkeeper.
It's worth it.
And I thought it was gonna be so much more expensive than it actually was. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good amount of money, but it saves me so much time. And you know, her and I laugh about it all the time. How I thought I was doing pretty good with my books, and it was horrendous. She's been working on them for a couple months to clean up for last year's, you know, all of those books. I thought the way I was putting it into the software, I thought I had made almost $200,000 last year. And I was like, where is all that money? You know, there's not even close, you know, just in sales, right? Like, I mean, it was in my first full year of business. Like, and I'm like, I was walking around, I was telling my brother-in-law, I remember, I was like, dude, I think I made $200,000 in sales, but I don't know where the money went. You know, like, I bought a van, but like, it was used, very used. Turns out I did not make $200,000. But now we're getting on track with everything, and I don't have to worry about if I'm going to get screwed with my taxes at the end of the year. You know, I know it's going to be right, and that's a huge relief. Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember how you got your first client outside of somebody from the contractor you were working with?
Let's see. First client, probably from a tile shop. Okay. I went to all my local tile suppliers and I introduced myself and I explained, you know, that I want to be this person, you know, like I showed them, I brought the NTCA manual with me and I was like, look, like, this is how I do things. And I gave them all my cards, you know, and I tried to create some branding for myself. You know, I got all the like different shirts made, the logo, all that fun stuff. I walked in there and tried to look like and talk like I knew what I was doing, right? And I got a few jobs out of that. And, you know, they've all been great. I've been very fortunate with that. And like we talked about in the business mastermind, some of my biggest jobs have been from my reps. Honestly, going and doing all the free training and getting to know my reps have landed me the biggest jobs and best connections I've got to date. Honestly,
very cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I mean, it's all about relationships in business, and building more relationships right in the industry, or even ones that touch on the industry, or even local business owners. I mean, that's where it's at. I went to the farmer's market. I've been wanting to go through the process of epoxy floor coating and Spartaco, with Laticrete, they have an opportunity where they basically do an on the job training. So I went, to the farmer's market, and I'm talking to an entrepreneur over there. He grows mushrooms. Well, I like to eat gourmet mushrooms. I like good mushrooms in my eggs and on my burger, and it's part of my diet. But I'm talking to him about his mushrooms. He says, yeah, we're expanding, we're growing, and we got this brand new building. We're doing this and that. And he's like, and I'm like, oh, where you at? So I start talking about construction, obviously, my background. And he's like, well, we need a floor, and I'm like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to power wash it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, how about an epoxy floor, And so now I'm lining up a little epoxy job for myself to get some on-the-job training, some free training, on-the-job training, and he's going to benefit from it. And I'm building that connection. And, it's just little things like that. I did want to circle back real quick to scheduling. Have you found a solution to your scheduling difficulties? Because this is very common. It was very common for me. It's probably common for Grant. Like, our eyes are bigger than our mouth, when it comes to eating, and when business, it's often the same. It's like, I can get this done in 3 days. 3 weeks later, it's like, oh, I really screwed that one up.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, just with time, I'm learning how much longer it's taking me. But I know we discussed it the other week in the mastermind. I need to start writing down everything. I still haven't, but now I'm thinking about it every single day. I'm like, I need to get in the car and just take a couple notes. I know it'll take 30 seconds, especially once I get into the swing of it. But here's another thing I'm looking at is, like, I know my brother is actually very good at taking notes. And I'm trying to see that, like, I have a bunch of like really close friends I'd love to get involved in the business and family. And I try to see what their strong suits are and where they would benefit and do well in the company. Like I said, my brother, I always think about this. He's very good at taking notes. He loves taking out a notepad. He has a $40 pen, and he likes writing. Like, he just enjoys writing,
Yeah.
So I've been meaning to talk to him about, like, trying to write down what we do every day, because I know he'd be good at it. He would enjoy it. And that's one less thing I would have to do, because it's not something I'm good at. It's not something I enjoy doing. Right. So, and then that would give him more responsibility, which means I could then pay him a little more. Right. And the more he learns, the better he gets at things, the more he can get paid. So really, it's just with time I've learned that. And I'm also, like, very, very open, like I was saying, with my clients. Right. I tell them what's going on. I'm with any future potential clients, I tell them, hey, look, I'm on a bathroom. It's hard for me to be super exact with when I'll be done with it. It's just a 2-man crew and stuff comes up in construction. And I'll say, look, here's a tentative date. Then as we get closer, I start talking to them. I go, hey, look, we'll be 1 more week or 2 more days, or depending on what it is. Like, if I'm doing a full bathroom remodel, I used to say 2 weeks. Now I know it's more like 4. And then what was the other one? Oh, I also am learning to now have, like, a backsplash on the back burner, or like a 1 or 2 where I just tell them when they call, like, hey, I'm currently booked out to, like, November. Honestly, that's where I'm at. And I'll say that when people call, say, hey, if they're looking for a backsplash, I go, hey, well, what's the urgency on it? Do you have any events coming up where you need it done by a certain day? If not, here is my schedule. And then I explain, like, look, in construction, it happens all the time where the sheetrockers need to come in and I'll be sitting for 4 days.
Right.
Well, if I find out that's going to be happening, I'll give you a phone call and then set it up, and we can come in and put that backsplash in for you. And it's been a great response so far. I've got 1 or 2 on the back burner for when that happens. Nice. And it's something I just learned in the past couple of weeks because I was in a situation where the sheetrockers came in and I sat for a week and a half, and I was like, I was getting phone calls like crazy the week prior, and I was telling them I can't do anything because I'm booked out into November.
Wow.
One of them was a super ornate, beautiful backsplash that I wish I said exactly that to them, and now there's a hot tip for some new business owners is always have a backsplash on the back burner.
That's a
there are
good
days
tip.
when you'll sit, and backsplash you can throw in 2 days, most of the time.
Nice.
Not sit at home.
That's a great tip. That's a really, really good tip.
Yeah, definitely.
What's been your biggest win, so far in 2 years? I mean, what do you feel really proud about, or what makes you, really ecstatic?
Getting my CTI.
Got it.
So like I was saying, when I was in the union, I was a finisher. I grouted and I made all the I would mark and make all the cuts in front of my mechanics. So I was literally doing everything except for putting the tile on the wall or floor. So when I only ever had like 1 or 2 side jobs when I was in the union. So quite frankly, I didn't start installing tile until I started my company, like full time.
Okay.
So the fact that I passed my CTI within that first year, and honestly, one of the requirements for the CTI is to be a full-time tile setter for about 2 years, I believe, is one of the requirements. And so I wasn't going to do it. I was going to wait until I was installing for 2 full years. So I was like, no, that's the requirements. That's what you need to do. And I want to keep the dignity, it might be a good word, of the test. And I went to we have a New Jersey tile installers dinner, which is actually coming up next week. We're having.
I love that.
Yeah,
a monthly thing or what?
I wish it was,
Right.
but no, it's once a year. We do it, and like the Flash is there, Ken Balin, Jim Segos, Anthony Ritz.
Nice.
Even though he's from Pennsylvania, we don't really like them too much. He comes over with Three Brothers Tile. Like there's a lot of Shannon Huffslicker comes. She's a New Jersey gal.
Sure.
There's a ton of awesome setters in New Jersey, and they all come, and it's a great time.
Yeah.
And I was talking to, I believe it was Jim Segos, and I was telling him exactly that. Like, I want to wait to take my CTI until I've been installing for 2 years. And he's like, dude, you own a tile installation company.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not meant for you. That's meant for companies trying to get all their helpers. You know what I mean? Like, so he's like, just sign up and take it. So I signed up and I passed, and it's been great. Yeah, that tile installer dinner is a wonderful thing. You make some great connections and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah. And probably Donnie's over there too, right?
No, exactly. Donnie from our
Yeah.
mastermind. He's over there as well. Yeah, it's where we first met last year. And he told me about, we were talking about CRMs, and he sent me Less Annoying CRM.
Yeah.
That's the one that he uses. And yes, where I met him, and I learned that he was having a little bit of a slowdown period. So I've been sending all my phone calls that they don't want to wait for me have been going to him and like a couple of other installers that I know in the area that have had some openings in their schedule. That's another thing I try to do is, since my schedule, I'm out until, like I said, until November. If I get calls from people who don't want to wait, I have three phone numbers that I give them. I said, look, these are respectable tile installers that I would trust in my home without me there. Give them a call.
Right.
And that I try to assure that confidence in the client before they even make the phone call, so that way they feel better about hiring these people.
Yeah.
And so I try to do that.
That's great. Yeah, it's great to embrace that competition like that and share. So many people are cutthroat, and it's like there's plenty for no matter what industry it is. It's like, come on, guys, we're all in this together. Yeah, that's what's beautiful about what Luke's doing with TileMoney, and people are coming together, sharing ideas, even if they're competition. It doesn't matter. There's so many different avenues for work and people, and connections, and it's like, yeah, and you at the end of the day, you want to do right by the customer, right? Which is
exactly.
I'm going to give you good people. Yeah.
I say it all the time. Like, I want to bring dignity back to the trades.
Yeah.
That's like part of what I'm trying to do. And there's so much work, man. And there's so much bad work that if I know somebody's good and does a good job, I want them doing it. Yeah. So that way they can kind of hopefully, there's a market for everything, right? Not everyone can afford a very, expensive shower, nicely tiled, whatever. Right. So I know that there's a market for everything, but I'm hoping that by, getting more people certified and or at least knowledgeable about the NTCA and like the proper methods and standards of doing things, that we can just bring the entire trade up by doing that, and see less and less of these failed showers. I feel so bad for customers when I get a phone call that they just got a shower installed in the past couple months and it's already leaking.
Yeah.
Or, they just had to fire the tile installer because they looked up online, there's no waterproofing and the tile's all jacked up, and they're asking me like, can I come in and help? And I'm like, I'm booked out right now. There's nothing I can do, but here's some phone numbers of guys that can help. And so, like I said, there's just so much work, man. There's no need to try to hog it. I don't want it all. Like I have, like I said, I have a very busy life. I do a lot of things outside of work. And I try to keep it that way. I try to keep my weekends free because I know like we were like the podcast you just did with, I forget I can't think of his name.
Nathan.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, Nathan. Exactly. You got to make sure you aren't working 7 days a week. I mean, look, it's okay every once in a while. I know it's easy to get into that rut and then it feels like it's okay. Like you feel like you're perfectly fine doing it, but you get burnt out quick, man. I was doing that once. We were doing 10 or 12-hour days, 7 days a week for like 3 months in the union.
Yeah.
I mean, the money was wonderful, but
good money,
dude, it was,
couldn't enjoy it.
I had no life.
Yeah.
I had no life. And that's not that's part of the reason I wanted to start my own business, is to be able to go enjoy life. There's just so much to do out there that I don't want to be working my entire life. Right.
Yeah.
So
work to live, don't live to work. Right. That's how it is.
Precisely. Yeah. Yep.
And everybody's version of success is different too, which I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding that.
Mm-hmm. For me, I see success as just being happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in my opinion, being happy is I don't want to worry about what I order for dinner when I'm out to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to make sure the bills are paid. And like I said, like go on vacation once in a while. Nothing crazy, but just not be beholden to normal everyday expenses, which, and that to me, that and just like friends and family, that's what matters to me.
Yeah. Definitely.
Nice.
I can attest to that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So what do you like to get up to on the weekends, Dan?
Oh,
out of curiosity, anything you can share on the podcast?
He does. He's a climber. He's a rock climber.
I do so much. Yeah, I'm a big rock climber. So I like doing that. In fact, we're going out to, my girlfriend and I are big rock climbers, right? And that's what we do whenever we have free time. In fact, I'm getting held up tomorrow on the job site. So I'm sending my brother in to finish doing a little bit of waterproofing and start a flood test. And I'm going to go climb the Delaware Water Gap.
Heck yeah.
So like I have a day off. My business is caught up. I'm going to go climb some 200-foot rocks. So that's one thing I like, mountain biking, trail running, going to festivals and shows and stuff like that, where my girlfriend and I were and all of our friends were constantly going to shows.
Nice.
We went on a kayaking camping trip this past weekend down the Delaware River. Spending time with my family. I'm one of 5 siblings.
Wow.
So there's just so much to do, especially when it's nice out. When it's cold out, go snowboarding.
This is fantastic. I mean, this is really, I get asked this question a lot, and that's kind of why I wanted to dive in, a little bit, because a lot of folks have trouble balancing their work with their life.
Mm-hmm.
And,
it's not easy.
It's not. I mean, as a contractor, I experienced it with my other business in real estate, property management. Property management was, you're on call basically, you know what I mean? I was a maintenance guy and the manager, and, so there's times when it's really difficult, young business, but kudos to you, man. You're 2 years in, you're realizing the importance of, at least working some fun into your life, trying your best to preserve your weekends. Like you said, things happen and we're business owners. we know how to get it done when we have to get it done, but to make that a daily habit, it's not for me, personally. I have a 6-year-old now, and, when my wife was pregnant, when we found out, I did go into that mode. I went 7 days a week for 8 months straight. You know what I mean? So that, because I knew I would be taking a lot of more time off, and I did. I took more time than I think most men would be able to take. But that's, again, business owner, I make the rules,
Exactly.
And that's what's cool. And I think too, like, that you're doing it when you're young and, before you have kids and stuff, that sets you up to be even, to just keep, you're not going to have to change, you're not going to have to stop working Saturdays because you don't,
Yep. I remember you, I think it was, one of the podcasts where you said, it's your company. You don't have to work weekends. No one expects you to work weekends, and I feel like that hearing that was like the click of like, oh yeah, no one expects you to work on weekends. And then it was just like I just started telling customers, I don't even have to say anything to customers. I just don't come in on the weekends, and they know that they don't expect me to. But I say, of course, if there's a deadline or something like that, and we need to get done, I have another job starting or whatever it is, I'll come in on a Saturday. If I really need to, I'll come in on a Sunday. I have it set up so my brother does get overtime. So, we have, honestly, I don't think we haven't worked a Saturday in a couple months, I think. Nice. At least, if not longer than that. I mean, really work. Like, I'll run out to a store and grab some material.
Sure.
Sundays, I do take Sunday mornings. My girlfriend, she works Sundays. So Sunday mornings, I wake up, I have a cup of coffee, and I sit there and I might do an estimate or two. So I guess that is technically working, but it's just kind of like that's where I find my time to be able to do that. Yeah. So that way when she gets home, we can go to the rock climbing gym or go mountain biking or do whatever we want to do, So that's how it's been working for me. Sunday mornings are like my estimate time.
Yeah,
that's good. That sounds good. Nice quiet time.
Coffee. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm a big coffee fan. So I make like a nice French press or a couple cups of something, some nice coffee beans, grind them up, and sit there and relax while I do the estimate. Yeah,
there you go.
Good time.
That's good. Yeah, it's great. Good time to work on the business instead of in it, right? So
exactly. Yep. I'm trying to get better at doing that. Working on the business instead of just in it. So I guess I want to eventually be off the trails. I'm trying to get, like, my goal is to not have to work really when I'm like in my 50s, so like with the tile business, I also do and fully intend and will end up working like getting like rental properties and investing my money with that, because I feel, I've been investing in the stock market for a long time now. Nothing crazy, but, just a little bits here and there, and it adds up. But in my opinion, even the professionals in the stock market get it wrong all the time.
Right.
And there's just a clear, like, beaten path on how to build passive income via rental properties or real estate. You know what I mean? And there's tons of people, there's forums and websites you can go to that were just kind of like TileMoney, where people are willing to help and tell you exactly what to do and how to do it.
Yeah. Bigger
so that's
pockets.
How I want to like invest my money once I, start building up some more capital. And not that I'm going to just stop working. I'll never stop working really, because I enjoy what I do, but I don't want to have to. Yeah. And I also want to set that up for like my friends and family, anyone who wants to like come into it. And like, for instance, my brother, what I mean? When I talk to him, I tell him like, look, when you're managing the jobs, you know what I mean? I don't want him on his knees forever.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a cycle, and I want that. I want to make careers for my employees, not just jobs.
Nice.
Like you've talked about, like keeping employees, just pay them well, don't give them reasons to leave, give them a nice work environment. That's what I want to do. Like I said, bring dignity back to the trades,
that's really cool.
By doing that.
Yeah. That's
so
awesome.
One step at a time,
That's awesome. Yeah. All that comes back to freedom, right? It's not like you don't want to be holding to the money, or else you're, that's smart, rather than invest in, liabilities, cars, etc. You put it
exactly. A car is not an investment. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people think that, like, buying a personal home is not an investment.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's a liability.
Actually, it's a liability. That's what I'm saying. Yes, it's a liability. Yeah, rich dad, poor dad.
Yep.
You're right there.
Robert Kiyosaki. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, man. Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool that you have goals to invest your tile money, back into, retirement portfolios or, long-term strategies for wealth building. Do you have any other, what is your vision for your company itself? I mean, where would you like to take the tile side of things? Like you say, by the time you're 50, you'd like to be off your knees and, you know, more or less running the business, I imagine. Is that kind of what you imagine? Is that what you're going for? Tell me about the future. You know, you seem like somebody who thinks in decades and long-term strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I absolutely, you know, it's funny. I part of another reason I started the company, like I constantly see it and tell myself, and I see it in everybody else, where you could either start something right now and have 5 years experience in 5 years, or in 5 years be telling yourself, man, I wish I started 5 years ago. You know, and that's part of the reason I just said screw it and started my company.
Yeah.
You know, because I knew like in 5 years I'll have 5 years experience owning a company, and you know, that's how things work. So what I want to do with the company is almost kind of, I don't know if you know Anthony Ritz, Three Brothers Tile.
Sure.
Right. That's a pretty good example of what I want to do, where he's got, I forget how many, I think he has 6 guys working for him, if I remember correctly. He takes on one at a time. He builds them up, and he, you know, gets them tested and CTI certified. And then he takes on another one once it, you know, business picks up, but slow and steady. And to the point where I was talking to him at the dinner, or maybe where did I see him last? I forget if it was at my CTI test actually, or he was there. And he told me he did like 60 showers this past year, you know, and all of it, if you look at any of his work, man, he's starting to does gorgeous stuff. And all of it is like 2 code. He's got 6 guys, and he's got just a very, from the looks of it and from what I've heard and seen and spoke to him about, he's got a very like sound company. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I don't, everybody, you know, you and other contractors I talk to, don't grow too fast. You know, all these phone calls I've been fielding, I could bring in some people and that quality is just going to drop. That is not what I want, you know? So that's why I'm telling people, I'm sorry, I can't, but here's some other installers I recommend. So
there'll always be more work, right? I mean,
exactly, man. I mean, I know, like, you know, people talk about the potential upcoming recession. Whatever happens, happens. You know, we're going to take it in stride and do whatever we can. I'm fortunate I don't have a whole lot of overhead. My rent is pretty cheap for where I live. I rent a cottage on the property that my family owns, right? So I'm fortunate in that way right now. I've almost bought a house a few times, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because if I did, I don't know if I'd be where I am with my company right now, you know? So there's a few things that have just fallen into place that have helped me be able to build the company. Really, you know, I just want to keep doing that. Just keep building the company, make it just like super steady and almost like recession proof. You know, I want a recession proof company where like we are known as the guys that you want to call when you want the job done right.
Yeah.
That's really it.
And the thing about it sounds like you play in the higher end market. The thing about playing in that is that those people have money. It doesn't matter what it is. Dude, my old boss, he did these, you know, like 17, he said the biggest house he did was 17 people bathrooms. I think there's 1 or 2 dog showers in there, but 17 bathrooms in the one house. I think he told me like Oprah Winfrey bid on it. You know, Richard Branson has a house in the next town over from me. It's like that level stuff. Now I've also heard though that I've heard from a few people that you almost don't want to get into the too high end market where you're working for all those people because they're not there. You know, like part of what I love about doing this is I get to know my community. You know, I haven't had too many town jobs in my town. Only like a couple in the town next to me. I've been traveling a little bit, but I'm trying to get that a little more honed in,
tighter. Sure.
Exactly. But I get to like those few jobs, like I'm getting to know my neighbors. You know, that's another big thing that I love about being a business owner. And I believe it was on your podcast where I heard somebody say, you know, he was talking to a lawyer and they said that the lawyer was jealous of him because he knows the entire community. You know, he goes to homes, and that's where they are like they are themselves most when they're in their own environment. And so that's where you get to know the people, you know, and it's just nice. You know, I've been very fortunate. I've had some amazing customers so far. I don't really have any complaints at all, actually. You know, it's been good so far. You know, life's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Right.
I love it, man. It sounds like you're on a really great roll. You've thought some things out. You're investing back into yourself and your business. and really watching your money, and you're right with the real estate, the way it is and the uncertainty. But the funny thing is, like, I think it was in the mastermind, we were talking about investing in real estate. And I know Keith Barnett shared his, strategies how he's been able to do that with his tile money, and we were talking about the amount of work that the mortgage brokers right now have. And they are working overtime writing reverse mortgages or just loans for people, wealthy or other, who are just smart in that way, because interest rates are going up as fast as they can. So like if I own a house that's worth $500,000, and I have $100,000 in equity, I might go pull that out just to have at my disposal, or to start planning for my 2024 remodel, because I know things are going to be a little bit discounted, but I still got that money. So, this is kind of what I'm wanting to, impart here for the audience listening is, look, mortgage, and maybe you can speak on this, Dan, and I know I want to wrap this up. I want to be respectful of your time. We're coming up on an hour, but I'm curious to know, like, places where you look for your information, because you're such a positive guy. I know you're not watching CNN. I know you're digging into other, other financial, maybe news sources, or, watching the real estate market. But I wanted to say, and then you can jump in. I wanted to just say, like, look, people are still going to be spending money, and they're taking money now to spend next year, because it's at a discount today versus what's coming. So they're building their monies up. That's what I understand and hear. Like, where do you get your financial news, or things that will help you, invest, or just keep an eye on the market? I mean, you said you're in the stock market and stuff. I mean, where would you recommend people look for that?
So, like you said, quite frankly, I don't watch any news, period. Sure. I am by myself much happier that way, because the news is blood cells. And that's all they report on, in my opinion. And there's no two news channels that say the same story, so why would I trust one over the other? That's how I view it. But I'm not going to get into any of my political beliefs, because that's not what this is about, right? So if something big happens, I hear about it. If something important happens, I'll hear about it through whatever. But as far as the financial information, I'm fortunate. I have a cousin who works for Merrill Lynch, or he just recently retired. But when it comes to stock market information, at first I would just kind of, on a whim, I would invest in like ETFs. Those who don't know what an ETF is kind of like you're buying a percentage of a whole bunch of stocks. So you, like, for instance, there's an ETF called QQQ. And that's one that my cousin has recommended I invest in. Now, this is not any financial advice whatsoever. I'm not saying it's going to go up or down. I do not know. That is the stock market. That's
Nobody knows.
Exactly. Nobody knows. So I just want to clarify that, right? But as an example, the QQQ tracks the top 50 NASDAQ companies, right? So the top 50 companies on the NASDAQ, which is one of the big stock market things.
Changes,
yeah, exactly. And now what they're managed, I don't know exactly how they're all figured out. Like, there'll be, each company will get like a different percentage of your money, but basically it takes the average of all those companies and it goes up or down based on that.
Got it.
So I highly recommend anyone that wants to go into the stock market, invest their money, is buy ETFs. You know what I mean? Invest in multiple companies. Don't put all of your money into Apple, Google, or any singular company at first. Do ETFs. It's called diversification, right? So that's just one way to help diversify. You could do that with foreign stock markets. You could invest in foreign ETFs versus American domestic stocks. But I've made the mistake where, for those that don't know, there's a company, Tesla. Maybe you've heard of it, right? When I first started investing, I remember I put like $90. I used there are apps that you can use where you can invest, like, you don't have to buy a full stock. You can invest in dollar into a company, right?
Yeah.
And I think I invested like $90 into Tesla like 4 or 5 years ago, and all of my other stocks were doing like pretty good, and Tesla was negative like $9, right, from when I bought it. I freaked out and sold it. Well, for those that don't know, I forget what it was trading at that point, but it like quintupled from the time since I bought it. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was trading at $100 and now it's at like $5 or $6, you know? So that's why you don't want to invest in like one singular company. You want to invest in like ETFs and buy a whole bunch of stuff. Once you have like a good amount of money, you kind of get the hang of it and you're not worried about losing that, let's just say $100. That's when you could take that $100 and maybe invest in a company that you personally think will do well. That's the thing is like, I mean, I don't really read much financial news. Like I said, I do talk to my cousin, which is, you know, that's an in for me, but not that often, you know, and I kind of have my stuff set up on, what's it called? Like,
auto draft.
So like I use a specific investing company, you know, I'm not promoting anything, but and in that company I just put in like I'm this age, I'm investing for, you know, the time I'm 45 and I'm kind of risk averse. I don't mind if my stuff drops down because I know I'm young enough that it will come back up. That's how the stock market works. Right. Historically, that's what it does. So by setting those parameters, it automatically, like I just put money into that account and it'll automatically like move it around for me. And it's done pretty good so far. I mean, right now the stock market dropped like crazy, so it's probably negative. But I also do this wonderful thing where I don't look at it.
Right.
You know,
long term. Yeah.
Now I probably haven't looked at it in 2 weeks because I know the market's down. I know I'm just going to get like freaked out, so I just don't even look.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the thing is I've learned to set it and forget it, and it's kind of nice. Like it's another thing that's helped me with my company is that because I was in the union for a while, like I know I have that money there. I haven't had to touch it yet. I've come close to it and certain like different dips and stuff like that in the ebb and flow of owning a business. But I haven't had to touch it yet. But having that there is a nice like mental thing. Like I know I'll be able to eat and pay my bills. Right. So that's one thing that's helped me. Without that, I don't know if I'd still have this company. I might be working back in the union again, you know? So before you venture out on your own, try to have some money saved up unless you really need to, you know what I mean? There's different circumstances. I don't know everyone's circumstance. I don't claim to, but it's definitely nice having a little bit of money, nothing crazy before trying to go out on your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's sound advice. And thanks for sharing about the stock market too. I mean, I learned some stuff just in the last 5-10 minutes. So that was,
nothing crazy. I just ETFs or just, like I said, or bonds, you know, just like low risk things where you can diversify easily.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's it for me. Grant, did you have one last question for Dan, or Dan, did you have a question for either of us?
Are there any suggestions you guys might have for things that I might, obviously you don't know my company fully in depth yet. In the mastermind group, we'll get to know each other a heck of a lot more over the next coming months. Which, by the way, anyone listening, I do highly recommend the mastermind group when it becomes available again. It has been wonderful. It's just a small group of us that do a Zoom meeting and just talk business, man. And there's just some brilliant minds in there, and you get to just bounce your ideas off of 15 people, you know, or just any problems you're having. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate having you there.
Yeah. No, it's one. I love it.
Yeah.
There's no replacement for having a group of people together that are going through the same thing, or somebody ahead of you that's already been through it, or vice versa. It's like you can't beat that, no matter what you're in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
The question was, do you have any maybe suggestions or things that you think would benefit my company or in any way? Small little things.
I think you're on the right track. Did you say you went and got the Less Annoying CRM set up, or
no? I need to set up a CRM.
That I would say that, you know, will help you with some of your I think Less Annoying even does scheduling. Maybe not.
Yeah, we actually built an integration for one of our Happy Tile guys from the website to a Less Annoying CRM, so it feeds automatically.
So we can link that if you wanted to get that going. You know, we could definitely link that for you. That way, when they land on your website and it says like schedule a call with Dan and input your information, that way they're inputting their information. Then you already have an address, you know, phone number. Beautiful. You know,
any of those little like add-ons on Happy Tile Guide, I want them. I want them all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know that is what's going. Like when the market, because it's going to happen eventually. Whenever the market goes down, you need to have that presence.
Right.
You know, like you guys, that's a discussion you guys had in a former podcast, so I won't go into it. But
Yeah.
I wholeheartly agree. That's why, like, even though, you know, I get phone calls, I try very hard to respond to all of them. I'm not great. There are some that slip through the cracks, but
Right.
I don't want those calls to slow down ever. You know, as much as I don't like my phone going off all the time, I know it's a good thing for the business. And I know I want that to maintain even in slow times, you know, so I want definitely to get that website churning. I know it's a process, right? Like you were saying, the white glove service, right? It's a time thing. It takes time to really build up and get that online presence and everything.
Yeah, I think the CRM is huge, like Luke was saying, having basically a Rolodex of past clients and things like that. I know a lot of small businesses don't in general do that one, or some kind of any type of email. You can call it email marketing, but more or less, you know, updates. You could be sharing new projects you've done that a past client sees, or somebody that was potentially going to work with you, and they say, "Oh, that bathroom looks awesome. I want that." They contact you, right? People don't. Things go cold, and then, you know, somebody might reach out now and not be ready for 3 years, but they might not remember you unless there's somebody to keep in touch, right?
Yeah.
But this is advice for everybody, which is something Luke and I have talked about extensively. So,
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Right on.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I think just keeping in touch, you know, because like Grant said, maybe they're not ready today, or maybe they have a change of circumstances. But, you know, the CRMs help us keep in touch with potential clients or even past clients. You know, we all know that those past clients are some of the best clients we could ever work for, you know, if they're hiring you again. But again, I've had clients tell me multiple times, we loved our last tile guy. And I'm curious, where is he? I would say, like, where is he? Like, something's not adding up. You know, you know, you're buying a new house in the same town,
right?
Every time. You know what? We don't remember his first name. We don't remember his company name. We lost his business card. Okay. Opportunity. Keep in contact, you know, and that's really the CRM. I just popped over to Google. I mean, you've got 16 5-star reviews, so you're knocking it out there. I mean, you're doing so many right things. It's hard to give you advice, but like you say, as we get to know each other, you know, but that was the first thing on my mind was the CRM, you know, keep it in contact with these people.
Yeah. What do you leave for people when you're done? Do you leave anything like magnet, t-shirt, something like that?
Cool. So that's a good point. Is I did want to, and you know, it's funny. I even ordered like a ton of all different size t-shirts, because that's one thing I want to do is like, and I did do it with one of my recent clients. The one that's going to be, I'm going to be featured in a magazine soon, but
nice.
It's going, it needs to be professionally photographed and stuff like that. So that's going to happen. But they were some of my favorite clients. So like we still talk. We were planning on going out to dinner and like going and doing stuff together. Like they're cool people, you know, like they're fun. And I gave them some shirts. And that is one thing I do plan on doing, is leaving a shirt with people. And then I did get a whole bunch of stickers made of just like, where is it? On that side, just like the logo, right? And I gave them to a whole bunch of like friends and family. You know, I got a whole bunch of beanies and the marketing, right? Like I'm trying to create
branding.
Branding. That's it. Branding.
Yeah.
And I need to start like doing stuff like that, or get like a card made, like the police leave a review card, because a lot of those 16 reviews, most of them are from last year. I haven't really gotten any this year. Everyone, and like, you know, so everybody says they'll happily leave a review.
Yeah.
People get busy, you know.
I was going to say,
following up.
I was going to say one of the easiest things to do for that is, because people don't know how to, like, they get overwhelmed. There's too much. Like if you just make a card you leave, if it's like a door hanging type card that says step 1, scan this QR code, you link that directly to Google. Step 2, leave honest feedback. Step 3, like, thank you very much. That's it. Like literally give people the steps, and put in parentheses, it should take 30 to 60 seconds. So
you know, what's funny? You just reminded me that months ago, I made like a template on my notes that said like, oh, dear Mr. or Mrs. XYZ, you know, thank you so much for like working. It's been wonderful. You know, if you wouldn't mind, please leave me a review for the company. It helps out so much. As a small local company, the reviews help tremendously. And I put the links to like 3 different like review, like the Google, the Facebook, and I think Nextdoor.
Nice.
And I forgot I did that until just now when you said that. So like I could just like literally send that to, you know, customize it to each client, right? I try doing things like that. Like for my estimating, I have a whole like Word document of just like the regular phrases, you know, like flatten and plumb walls to within NTCA standards. And so that way I can just copy and paste. It's made my estimating much faster,
Right?
because it's basically the same thing almost every time. You customize a little bit here and there, but so I try to do stuff like that in my notes as well.
Yeah, there you go.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, listen, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing, you know, your journey, you know, here with everybody. If you want to check Dan out, you know, he's got that Happy Tile Guy website, cascotile.com. It's really a nice looking website. You can check it out, see kind of how he's got his laid out. And where else can people find you, Dan? Are you on TikTok, or where are you at online?
I'm absolutely not on TikTok. I refuse to download it.
All right.
I am on, you know, Instagram and Facebook, Casco Tile, you know, and through, I'd say Casco Tile. It's pretty plain and simple. Luckily, there's no other ones in the nation. So
yeah,
pretty easy.
Your branding's awesome. I love your logo. Yeah, it's all.
Thank you. That was
a
where did freelancer.com is what I used, and I did
awesome.
a crowdsourcing is how it got.
Nice.
Yeah,
Smart.
that's great.
Yeah,
Right on, Dan.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome.
Thanks
I finally
again.
get to do this, of course.
All right. Well, I hope you guys all enjoyed that interview as much as I enjoyed it. I think really what sums up Dan's motto and that whole interview was something he said inside the episode, was to bring dignity back to the trades. And I know that's something that a lot of my audience is really working towards, and I want to encourage y'all to continue working towards it. You know, as there's less and less workers in the field, and through the coming years, it will become more and more evident. And the fact of the matter is, most people are attempting to attract and work towards the easiest customers, which are the price-based shoppers. So those of you listening to this podcast can raise your prices and provide a more value, really, is what you're doing by saying we're going to be the high price contractor. You know, like I say, that's to provide more value to your clients in the long run, which brings dignity back to the trades ultimately. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that one, tile friends, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know Dan a little bit. Go give him a follow on Instagram and Facebook. Go check out his website. It's a gorgeous website. And we're going to put the links to the books mentioned in the show notes here and all that good stuff. So have a great week, tile friends, and stay positive. And above all else, please, please, please stay profitable, tile friends. Over and out. We'll talk to you next week.